Let me just cite three insights from our coverage. I think many journalists here could very well relate to me when I say that in repressive regimes where you can't access documents, can't get your resources, can fake into anomalous contracts, you hit a wall. And because of that, because of the climate of fear, there's an information drop. But you take advantage of that, and we did during the Duterte years. And this did not stop us from what we call perfunctory data collection. Loading into your database, really regular government filings of campaign contributors, etc. And so investigative reporters know this, but I believe it's worth pointing out that in the face of roadblocks, get what you can. So when the list of the biggest flood control projects was released to the public a few months ago, our reporter just easily checked the names against our data of campaign contributors. And in a snap, we were able to link then Senate President Cheese Escudero to a big contractor who also happened to be his major campaign contributor. The senator held a press conference the following day, and because he cannot deny the links, he said our rapper was doing this out of a hidden agenda and wondered how we could have easily linked him to the contractor. Are they that good? He asked. Well, Senator. I have other stories to share, but in the interest of time, I'll go to the second insight that I can share as far as this coverage is concerned. The second insight is that there is no better way to rebuild public trust in investigative journalism than to show citizens that reporters actually pursue and the tips and leads from them. An angry community showed up, as shown by this map, which we built with them through their tips, through their emails, and through their messages to us. We were able to map the flood control projects that are owned by politicians nationwide. And you could see the red dots, it's practically everywhere. These are politicians running and owning big construction companies that took advantage of the national budget that the lawmakers themselves inserted in our budgetary system. And so under Rappler Act, and I'll show you this again in relation to the community, we created the Flood Control PH channel under Rappler Act, where citizens sent photos, videos, and even measurements of projects. We acted on leads even from a small province with 180,000 people, and which has been under the control of one contractor family. It performed well, ironically, and a pleasant surprise in our analytics, proof that local resonates. It also introduced Rappler to a public that has grown cynical towards the media. And so we could feel the ground shaking, so to speak. Something that we needed to seize, and this was mentioned earlier. When you see that a chunk of the public is giving journalists a second look, that the doubters and even haters are now looking for you, looking to you to fix the system, you've got to go all out in all forms and in all channels. On TikTok, we converted our long verticals, our long form into 2 or 3 minute verticals. Our investigative verticals found the anti-corruption class on TikTok, but we don't let them stay there. We use that to funnel our audiences to register on the app and to register on our website. And then we leverage our coverage by testing the ground for paid content. And this is where, as Maria had said, courage pays. Following the 3 goals of reader reputation and revenue. So we did paywall certain major investigations for a short period, but also asked our reporters themselves to show in video verticals and their own newsletters how difficult it is to investigate and why we need financial support. And thus we are seizing the moment in a way that helps achieve both our editorial and business goals. Will this last in an age of AI and fakery? Maybe not. But after a long dry summer under the Duterte, we'll take this, a public that is reconnected with journalists and their work. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenda.